I would like to introduce Brian Naron. He has served as assistant advisor at Bristow's Automotive for 18 plus years, providing quality service, customer service, and communication. He is a father and a stepfather to 7 kids and pops to 3 grandkids. He is also a co-owner of a retro music label, Northwest Metalworks, producing LPs from local music from the 70s to the 90s. Please welcome Brian Naron.
Hello, I am Brian Naron from Bristow's Exclusive Auto Repair. My main function, our goal at Bristow's is making sure that you as my customer have a good experience, that you're satisfied with the repairs that we do on your vehicle, that the communication and customer service is as high quality as I and our group can provide. There are several aspects of what we do, if working properly, will achieve that goal. Certainly, like all businesses, it's important that our customers are happy. The other is that we make enough money to stay open, to be profitable, and be able to pay our employees a wage and benefits, like all of our businesses. And so there's always a challenge in reviewing how we do things, for what cost, the quality of the products, and the service, and what is it worth, and who are we serving? Because in many cases with automotive, our type of service isn't for everybody. There are markets and demographics that aren't ours, and I think sometimes we have to recognize that and work to our strengths, work to the clientele that will provide us our goals with being able to sell the quality of the products that we sell, be able to maintain the craftsmanship that we believe, based on the feedback we get from our customers, the high level of craftsmanship that requires paying quality people. One of the things that is said in automotive is that the unemployment rate for technicians is as high as it's been in 35 years, but also the demand for quality technicians is as high as it's been in 35 years. So what that tells us is there's a lot of technicians out there with toolboxes, but only a certain portion of those people meet a certain level of experience, personal, how do I say it? They have a certain level of personal goals that they want to achieve. They just don't want to show up and just turn some wrenches and say that's good enough. We need people that are constantly evolving, because the business is constantly evolving, just like any other business. And I certainly don't know all of your businesses that well, but I know that technology is a part of all of the changes that are going on in our businesses. And for someone of my age, it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for everyone. But I certainly, when I was in school, we had no computers in school. I don't even remember the office ladies having word processors. So when I got into computers in the early 90s, I was starting from scratch, whereas my youngest brother, who's 14 years younger than me, he doesn't remember a day in school that he didn't have a computer. So whenever I have trouble, I talk to somebody 15 years younger than me, and they're like, oh yeah, I got some of the answers. That certainly is a common thread with all of our businesses. So quality help is one of those things. And so if we can do the work right the first time, which is always our goal, that makes it more cost effective. Our customers are a lot happier because we're meeting our timelines. The number one complaint in the automotive industry, repair industry, is that, well, there's actually 2. You didn't fix what I came in for, and the other is you didn't fix it when you said you would. Those are the two main complaints. It doesn't matter that we polished your car or vacuumed out, cleaned your windows, or we fixed a couple of things that were loose that should have been fixed. The fact is that people come in and they have something squeaking in their car. And it's our job to determine what that problem is. And if we don't do that first and foremost, we haven't served you properly. And that happens a lot in automotive industry, because either it gets hard to figure out, and all the technician wants to do is communicate what we call the gravy work, or the low hanging fruit. You know, the belts, the fluid flushes, the air filters. Excuse me.
Oh, good God, I'm so sorry. I didn't
Which is great. I mean, those are the kinds of things that your car also needs. One of the more common things that happens is people will call and they're saying, well, I need a tune-up. And the first question that I will ask that potential customer, or one of my established customers, is, well, why do you think you need a tune-up? Well, my car's not running well. Okay, that's fair enough. Because when you had your 64 Falcon, if your car wasn't running right, it probably needed a tune-up. It probably needed spark plugs, it needed the points sanded, you probably needed fresh fuel because they hadn't driven it for a while because it was convertible. You did those things, the car ran beautiful. Today, we're fixing cars with software downloads. So I don't doubt that your car needs a tune-up, man, but the fact that it's got these symptoms tells me that there's another problem. That it's just not a tune-up. And what I would hate to do is just accept your word for it and have you spend $300 or $400 or $500 on a tune-up, and then it doesn't fix your problem, because it doesn't make me look good, because what I should have done is said, well, just this. Let's diagnose it. That's a really important part of what we do, is diagnosis. And some people look at it and they go, well, you're just looking at my car, right? Well, no. I mean, that's not what diagnosis is. Diagnosis is a series of inspections, a series of tests. It's the culmination of years of experience, costly equipment, not just the tools in the technician's toolbox. Most technicians, on average, have $10,000 to $12,000 worth of hand tools, pneumatic tools in their toolboxes. Some tools they don't use but once a month maybe. Sometimes they don't use the tools for maybe a year. Some tools they're using every day. But there's value. There's value in the tools that they have to buy to be prepared and ready to work on somebody's car. Then there's the experience. It used to be, and I think we can all kind of relate to this. It used to be most of us could work on our cars, our older cars. I mean, we could put coolant in it, or we could put gas, we could put oil in it, we could do our oil changes. There's some cars that require special tools to do that now. For instance, like on a Porsche, you just can't let gravity drain your coolant out and put new antifreeze in it. You have to use a special tool that actually creates a vacuum that sucks the fluid all the way from the front to the rear of the car, because you've got coolant components in the front of the car as well as the back of the car. You'd never be able to get all the air out of the system. And if you don't get that air out of the system, you're going to get a warning light that's going to come on. You're going to have an overheating condition, because the sensors that are paying attention to the temperature of the coolant are not getting coolant run by the sensor and creating a hot spot, and the computer thinks that it's running hot. So many of these things are changing, and again, that requires training. So to keep our level of craftsmanship up, not only do we have to rely on our experience, we're also relying on the new information that is bombarding us. This month alone, my technicians, I have 3 technicians They are going to be involved in about 16 hours of training this month. About every other month, they're going to some form of training. It's kind of a saying that if, in today's automotive age, if you're not doing some type of automotive training every 6 months, you're out of step. And it's very true. Again, and a lot of that has to do with the technology, or it has to do with sort of how fickle the automotive industry is. What was acceptable a decade ago is no longer acceptable because of the way the cars are built. The feds have changed emissions conditions. I know a lot of folks have been going through emissions for probably as long as you've been driving. Every 2 years you got to go get an emissions check, and a lot of people feel that that's kind of antiquated now, which it kind of is. They say it's going to go away in 2017 or 18. They've got most of the belchers off the road. Mm-hmm. But we're constantly having to look at what is the new normal, what's the latest products that are going to serve not only the car better, but your car warranties. That's another thing. In the name of trying to provide the buying customer with a good product, people are spending a lot of money on warranties. But they're making it real hard to keep your warranties in force. They're changing the minimum requirements for the oil. They're changing mileages for how long these warranties will last. And we're constantly learning what those things are and trying to keep our customers as informed as possible. A big part of what I do is communication. I don't actually work on the car, but my part is no less or no more important than what my guys do in the back. Because if I don't get it right at the start, it can all go wrong as we go through the process. So when a customer calls me or a customer comes in, it's important to make a good impression, of course, greeting the customer and making them feel a sense of comfort that they've come to the right place. They saw our Google feedback. They maybe saw the pictures on our website, and they're like, yes, this is the place. And yes, he seems like a nice guy, and he communicates to me in a way that I can understand it. I don't feel like it's too far over my head, which is nice because I feel that's how I communicate, because I don't have all the technical ease, so I'm not talking over people's heads. I figure if I understand it, I can convey to my customer, what we have found on their car, or I'm able to glean a lot of information from them right at the counter. And it's not my job to try to fix your car at the counter. It's my job to find out what your symptoms are, to find out what's important to you today, what your timeline is like, sometimes what your budget's like, and then be able to set the next step in motion after I've taken all that information in, and we have a thorough understanding of what it is we're trying to achieve with your car today. And then I take that information and I document it in the computer, provide my technician with we call it a technician inspection report, and my technician then will read what your symptoms are, what your concerns are. He'll ask any questions that he might have, and once we all have an understanding, he proceeds to make those tests and make those inspections and recommend additional tests or inspections if needed. Our goal is always to come to some resolution sooner than later, for a couple of reasons. As much as, we all like to make money and make as much money as we can, because that's how we stay busy and stay open and happy. Our goal is to get to resolution on your car as quickly as possible. We'd like to keep the costs down for you. We also would like to keep our frustration level down, because as technicians, they want to solve problems, and when they can't solve problems, and they can't solve problems within the time or dollar amounts that are given to them, you know, they get anxiety ridden because they want to do a good job. They want us to be proud of them. They want to be self-satisfied that they've been able to, you know, figure this one out. Because, you know, the last thing you want to do is not be able to figure it out. But sometimes, even with the best equipment, with the best amount of experience, and then we have, I don't think we're terribly unique, but we are about willing to work on anything. A lot of shops work specifically on European, Asian, domestic. Some shops don't work on any performance stuff like race cars or that kind of thing, or people who want to think their car is a little more racier, so they're putting in, you know, cold air injections and things as such. But Pete's philosophy is that we would like to be all things to all cars, try to be as much of a one-stop shop as possible. And so while that's really great in the slow times, like now, you know, because we can take on the jobs that a lot of other shops aren't willing or untooled or unexperienced in doing. We have a really wide breadth of experience with my technicians, and we have not as much equipment as we'd like to have, but we have enough to really be able to make a real positive impact on doing that. But again, one of the challenges with doing a lot of different makes and models is you can't know everything. Sometimes the information that we have is somewhat limited, but we're pretty resourceful. We have a lot of friendlies, I call them, at different dealerships and at different shops that we can communicate with. I know I've talked to Darren at Kevin's location where they do bodywork and paint. They have a different type of software than we have, so if I need to know what it takes to take a bumper off, they've been nice enough to say, you know, this is about what the labor is to do that. And a lot of shops work together, because I've got a scanner that guys across the street don't have, but they've got something we don't have, so we work together to help each other out, take care of business and satisfy our customers. So communication, again, is really important. We call it the 300% rule. And so 100% of all the information that you can provide me, I try to get. So you tell me what your symptoms are, you tell me when it happens, why it happens, so on and so forth. Then it's my job then to communicate all of that information to my technicians so that they can have as much info to come to resolution as quickly as possible. That's the second 100%. And the third of those 100% is that communication back up the line. So they're giving me all of the information that they find, not only from the inspection for your specific symptoms, but we also do a cursory inspection, which is essentially is a free inspection while we're working on your car to communicate anything else that you may not have known about your car. And of course, then it continues back from me to you. I will call you, email you, send you pictures. I will let you know what the source of that squeak is, and I will let you know first and foremost that to take care of that squeak, it's going to require these parts, this amount of money, and this amount of time. And we make a decision on that first. Then at that point, I would tell you, by the way, our cursory inspection, we noted these things. These are pretty hot. These are back burner things. These are things that you can budget at a time. And we we talk back and forth, and we make an agreement how we're going to move forward. You want to take care of that squeak, we replace the parts. Hopefully the squeak goes away, and then we can talk about doing other work today, or let's go ahead and schedule in another day this week or next week, whenever it makes sense. Our goal is to get it done when we say we are, and if we're not going to be able to do that, then communicate to you as quickly as possible in the process. Offer up some alternatives to if I can't get your car to you by noon, can I get you somewhere? Can I give you our loaner? Can I put you in a rental car for the day? Sometimes cars have to be left more than just for the day, because we'll find that while this took care of your squeak, your front suspension's ready to fall out. And I wouldn't suggest you driving your car, and it has happened. At that point, hopefully people are ready to make a decision, whether they're, yes, let's go ahead and fix this unsafe condition, or let me just tow it out. But a lot of times people make the decision just to drive it away. But we try to give them as much information as possible so that you can make the best decision. And decisions are hard along the whole process, because I can't think with my wallet. I can't just assume that this is a really expensive repair and my customer's probably not going to do it, because I can't think with my wallet. I have to communicate every bit of information that my technicians or myself have come up with to give you that option. And I can't leave things out, because it's not my place to say, well, I didn't think it was a big deal that your tires were worn out and I didn't tell you. Well, it's happened. Somebody drives out and they're towed back in because they had a blowout. And it's like, well, we didn't tell you that you had bad tires. That's important information. So it's important that 300% communication happens. The final part of the repair process is the QC. That's quality checks. It's making sure that we've driven the car, we have taken care of the symptoms, the squeak is going. We'll back your car up, give you a call, let you know it's ready to go. If personnel's in place, we'll vacuum and clean windows. Sometimes we wash the cars, and then we provide the customer with documentation outlining all of the work that we did, what we talked about price-wise, provide you with recommendations for the next time that we should see you, and prioritize it, say, this is important and this is why. We finish the transaction with hopefully rescheduling that work, and the customer will drive away being able to feel that their car is now reliable, and they're not going to have to worry about that squeak, because you'll be amazed at what people feel are important. And if that squeak is what's the most important thing, even though you're almost out of brakes, we've taken care of that. But we certainly communicated to you that you really need the brakes right away. Like I say in my 60-second commercial, we're not 100%, but we always make it right. I don't know that anyone's 100%. No one's perfect as far as I know. Stuff gets by you. It's how you react. It's the concern, the humility, and communicating with people forthrightly and honestly about what the failure was in the process. And I think we can all agree that communication is one of the things in business is real hard to do sometimes. But we make it right. We get people back in. We take care of the problem. We come to terms with what we need to do. And I'd like to think that we do a pretty good job. But it's our customers that let us know, because as much as I'd like to pat myself on the back, I can't really do that. So we elicit feedback from our customers, whether it's with another phone call from me, whether it's with a little card that we send out with customers, or a lot of times customers are really good about communicating back to us and saying, man, the car's running really great. We really appreciate it. It came in on our budget. And the stuff that you had to do extra, I appreciate it. We'll get back into you. Follow-up is, I think, probably our biggest challenge. It's making the time to follow up and make sure that our customers need, if there's anything else they need. So I'm right down to it here. So just in closing, again, the process for repair starts from the first time you walk in the door to the time I hand you the keys, you walk out feeling like I was taken care of. That's always our goal at Bristow's. We'd love to see you folks, and we do see some of you folks. And if you have other people in your lives that that are looking for someone they can trust, somebody that will do the work right, or at least make it right, I think they would find that they're happy with it. So appreciate your time. Brian at Bristow's, and